She boarded the plane like any other executive. Calm, composed, used to closing billion-dollar deals before lunch. No raised voice. No disruption. Just a first-class ticket with her name on it. But within minutes, security was standing over her seat. Passengers stared. Phones lifted. Whispers spread. She was asked for proof, again. Then told to stand. Then told to leave. She wasn't just a passenger. She wasn't just a CEO. But in that moment, none of that seemed to matter. What the airline didn't realize was that the woman they were escorting off that plane didn't just control her own future. She controlled theirs. And by the time they understood who she really was, it was already too late. For years, she had built her reputation in rooms where few people looked like her. Boardrooms, investment summits, global conferences. Her name carried weight, quiet but undeniable. She was the founder and CEO of a fast-growing investment firm managing billions in assets, known for turning struggling companies into industry leaders. She had earned everything the hard way. Late nights, early flights, relentless negotiations. While others underestimated her, she studied the numbers twice as hard. While doors closed, she built her own entrances. By the time she was 42, she wasn't just successful, she was powerful. That morning had been routine. A cross-country flight to finalize a major funding deal with a legacy airline struggling to stay afloat. Her firm was preparing to inject billions into their operations, a move that would stabilize jobs and restore public confidence. The paperwork was nearly complete. She arrived at the airport in a tailored navy suit, laptop in hand, moving with the quiet confidence of someone who understood leverage. First-class seat, window view, noise-canceling headphones resting gently over her ears. No chaos, no confrontation. But halfway through boarding, something shifted. A lingering stare, a hushed exchange between crew members, a pause that felt just slightly too long. At first, she ignored it. She was used to being watched, used to being questioned. She just wasn't used to what came next. The flight attendant stopped 2 rows short of her seat. Their smiles were tight, professional, rehearsed. One of them asked to see her boarding pass. She handed it over without hesitation. First class, seat 2A. Her name printed clearly across the top. The attendant studied it longer than necessary, then glanced at her again, this time not at the ticket, but at her face. As if the two didn't quite match. A second attendant arrived. Then a third. Passengers nearby began to notice. Conversations softened. Eyes shifted. There was no accusation at first. Just questions led in polite tones. Was she sure she was in the right seat? Had someone helped her find it? Did she perhaps mean to board with another group? Each question landed heavier than the last. She explained calmly. She showed her ID. She pointed to the confirmation email on her phone. Her voice stayed steady, but inside, something old and familiar stirred, the exhausting need to prove she belonged in rooms she had already earned. The attendant stepped away, whispering near the galley. That should have been the end of it. It wasn't. 2 uniformed security officers entered the cabin before the doors even closed. The temperature in the room seemed to drop. They walked straight toward her. One officer addressed her by last name, mispronouncing it. He asked her to stand. Said there was a discrepancy with her ticket. No further explanation. Just procedure. Every movement now felt magnified. The sound of her seatbelt unclicking. The rustle of fabric as she stood. The dozens of eyes locked onto her back. She asked what the issue was. The officer repeated the word discrepancy, but offered nothing more. Her phone began vibrating. Notifications lighting up the screen. Someone across the aisle was recording. A passenger whispered that this didn't look right. Another muttered that security wouldn't be here without a reason. That's how quickly doubt spreads. She felt it. The shift. From respected executive to suspected problem. From first-class passenger to spectacle. They asked her to gather her belongings. Her mind raced through possibilities. A clerical error. A seat mix-up. But deep down, she knew this wasn't about paperwork. The attendants had scanned her ticket twice. Her name was on the manifest. Yet here she was, being escorted down the aisle as if she had done something wrong. With every step, humiliation burned hotter than anger. At the front of the plane, she turned once, just once, and saw it clearly. No one else was being questioned. No one else was being asked to prove anything. Outside the aircraft door, the explanation finally came. A passenger had felt uncomfortable. No description of behavior. No violation of policy. Just uncomfortable. The word echoed in her mind. Uncomfortable with what? Her presence. Her skin. Her authority. Security informed her she would need to deplane while they sorted it out. The doors closed behind her. The jet bridge suddenly felt smaller, quieter, colder. Inside the cabin, the flight continued preparing for departure. And that was the moment something shifted inside her. Because while they saw a passenger they could remove without consequence, they had no idea who they had just forced off that plane. She stood in the jet bridge, the aircraft door sealed behind her, as if she had just been erased. Her luggage rested at her feet. 2 security officers remained a few steps away, watching, not threatening, not apologizing, just waiting for her to accept it. Inside the plane, the engines began to hum. Through the small oval window, she could see silhouettes settling back into comfort. Seat belts fastened. Drinks served. Life continuing. As if she had never belonged there in the first place. Her phone was still vibrating. At first, she ignored it. But then she looked down. Dozens of messages. Then hundreds. Her assistant. Senior partners. Board members. And one message pinned at the top from her chief legal officer. The airline just confirmed receipt of the $5 billion liquidity agreement. Final signature pending your approval. Her approval. The same airline that had just removed her because someone felt uncomfortable. For a moment, the humiliation tried to swallow everything else. The stays. The whispers. The silent judgment of strangers who assumed security must have had a reason. But beneath that humiliation was something stronger. Clarity. She wasn't powerless on that jet bridge. She wasn't at their mercy. They had mistaken dignity for weakness. She slowly opened the contract on her phone. $5 billion in funding. Capital that would stabilize their stock price, protect thousands of jobs, and keep their planes in the sky. All waiting on one signature. A supervisor approached, now suddenly aware of who she was. The tone had changed. Apologies were forming. Words like misunderstanding and protocol floated awkwardly in the air. But it was too late for explanations. Because in that moment, she realized something undeniable. They had just gambled their future on prejudice, and she was holding the pen. She didn't argue. She didn't raise her voice. She simply declined to sign. Right there on the jet bridge, with the engine still humming behind her, she instructed her legal team to suspend the agreement indefinitely. Within hours, her firm released a statement citing serious concerns regarding corporate culture and passenger treatment. By the time the plane landed, the story had already taken off. A passenger's video spread across social media. Headlines questioned the airline's practices. Investors began asking uncomfortable questions of their own. Stock prices trembled. The same company that had doubted her seat assignment was now fighting to keep its own. But the real impact wasn't measured in billions. It was in the quiet conversations that followed. In boardrooms where executives suddenly reconsidered bias training as more than a checkbox. In living rooms where viewers saw something painfully familiar, the need to prove belonging in spaces already earned. She eventually flew home on another airline. Another first-class seat. Another window view. But she carried something heavier than her luggage. Because what happened that day wasn't just about one flight. It was about a system where discomfort can outweigh credentials. Where perception can override proof. Where success still doesn't shield you from suspicion. She kept building. Kept leading. Kept investing. But she also started speaking about dignity, accountability, and the cost of prejudice. The airline lost billions in funding. But the question that lingers is far more expensive. How many doors are still closing on people who don't have $5 billion to fight back?